There's a moment in every man's life when he looks back and realizes he let something priceless slip through his fingers, not because it wasn't good enough, not because it lacked love or passion, but because he wasn't ready. He didn't recognize her worth, or worse, he thought she'd always be there no matter how he treated her. She was real, real in a world that is obsessed with filters, games, and temporary attention. She gave her heart with no playbook. She didn't make him chase breadcrumbs. She gave him the whole loaf. She showed up, stayed loyal, and made him feel like the best version of himself, even when he wasn't acting like it. But he got comfortable. He mistook consistency for weakness, mistook her patience for permission, mistook her silence for satisfaction, and slowly, day by day, he pushed her further away until one day she didn't come back. Let's get something clear. A real one doesn't wait around forever. She might love deeply, forgive often, and tolerate far more than she should, but once she's done, she's done. And when she leaves, she doesn't just take her presence. She takes the peace, the energy, the emotional safety he never realized he was living in. He'll try to fill the void with distractions, other people, a packed schedule. But nothing compares, nothing feels the same, because once you've experienced a genuine connection, one that sees you, nurtures you, challenges you, and believes in your potential, you can't unknow it. You can't go back to surface-level attention when you've been held by something soul deep, and now she's his biggest regret, not because she left, but because of why she had to. He remembers how she used to look at him, not with eyes full of judgment, but hope. He remembers the texts she sent just to remind him he mattered. He remembers the times she gave him grace when he didn't even deserve a response, and now he scrolls past her pictures and realizes she still glows, but without him. That smile she used to give him, it belongs to someone else now. That comfort he used to take for granted, she gives it to herself or someone new who knows how to value it. And here's the truth most people don't want to admit. People don't leave because they stop loving you. They leave because they get tired of fighting alone, tired of giving more than they receive, tired of loving someone who doesn't show up. She would have stayed, not because she couldn't do better, but because she wanted him. Wanted to build with him, grow with him, celebrate with him, and when he chose ego, inconsistency, or indecision, she chose peace. What men often realize too late is that love isn't always loud. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes love is a soft place to land after a hard day. It's the little things, the texts that say, "I believe in you." The way she makes your goals feel like hers, the way she fights for you, not with you. And when that kind of love is gone, everything else feels empty. It's like trying to drink from a cup that used to overflow, but now it's bone dry. So he sits with the weight of his decisions, with the echoes of everything he didn't say, the apologies he never gave, the effort he failed to show. And she rebuilds, she heals, she becomes the woman she was always meant to be, just no longer for him. Because being a real one doesn't mean sticking around to be drained. It means knowing when to walk away with dignity, even when her heart still whispers his name. Regret doesn't come from loss. It comes from knowing you had gold in your hands and you treated it like rust. And while he now sees her value in 4K clarity, it's through the window of hindsight, too little, too late, because she's moved on from needing to be chosen. She chose herself. Let that be the lesson. If you're lucky enough to have someone who brings out the best in you, don't wait for regret to remind you of their worth, because once a real one walks away, no amount of guilt, nostalgia, or late night apologies will bring her back. She's not punishing him. She's just done waiting for him to become who she always knew he could be, and the saddest part, so is he. He took her for granted. She gave her heart sincerely and consistently, but he grew complacent, mistaking her love and patience for permanence. She was a rare, genuine partner in a world full of superficial connections. She offered something deep, honest, and emotionally safe, something he didn't recognize until it was gone. She walked away for her own peace, though she loved deeply. She reached a breaking point where self-respect outweighed the relationship, choosing peace over being undervalued. Regret hit when reality set in once she was gone. He realized the gravity of what he lost, her presence, loyalty, and the unique love she gave that no one else could replace. She chose herself and grew without him after leaving. She healed and evolved, becoming the version of herself she once hoped to become with him, just no longer for him. The lesson: don't wait for regret to value someone. Real love should be appreciated in the present, not once it's lost. Waiting too long to recognize someone's worth means living with permanent regret. He took her for granted in ways that seemed small at the time, but when added up, created a canyon between them. In the beginning, he was attentive, invested, present. He saw her as someone special, someone he wanted to impress and pursue. But as the days passed and her consistency stayed unwavering, something in him grew too comfortable. The texts that used to come with excitement became responses delayed by hours. The conversations that once explored their dreams and fears were replaced by shallow replies and distracted glances at his phone. Slowly, he stopped seeing her love as a privilege and started treating it like an obligation. She was still showing up, still trying, still believing in what they had. But what he failed to realize is that emotional neglect doesn't always come in loud, cruel gestures. Sometimes it comes in the quiet absence of effort. She gave him everything she had, not just attention, but genuine care, belief, and emotional availability. She remembered the small details he told her in passing. She noticed his moods before he even said a word. She defended him when others misunderstood him, supported him even when he didn't ask, and celebrated his smallest wins like they were her own. But instead of meeting that love with gratitude and reciprocity, he started to assume it was her default setting. That she would always be there, regardless of how much or how little he gave, that her heart was a constant, not a choice she made every day. That mistake cost him more than he could have imagined. What often goes unnoticed by someone who is receiving unconditional love is how much energy it takes to keep giving it. She wasn't just being sweet or nurturing by accident. She was choosing to care deeply in a world that taught her to build walls. And every time he ignored a heartfelt text, dismissed a vulnerable conversation, or failed to show up when she needed him most, he chipped away at the trust she placed in him. He didn't need to cheat or lie to lose her. All he had to do was make her feel invisible. And that's exactly what happened. She tried to communicate. She dropped hints at first, then expressed her concerns more directly. She didn't want to walk away. She wanted to work through it. She wanted the version of him she believed in, the version she saw when everyone else only saw his flaws. But his ego got in the way. Maybe he thought she was being too emotional or overthinking. Maybe he told himself that she was just going through a phase. But what he didn't see was that every time she voiced her need for connection and was met with silence or defensiveness, a piece of her heart closed off. It's easy to blame her when she finally leaves. Easy to paint her as dramatic or impatient, but what he fails to acknowledge is that she stayed far longer than most would have. She gave more chances than were reasonable. She loved him through versions of himself that even he didn't like. But love is not invincible. It needs water, sunlight, and care, and when it doesn't get those things, it withers, not all at once, but day by day, until there's nothing left to fight for. He assumed she wouldn't leave. Assumed that because she was loyal once, she'd always be. But he forgot that loyalty isn't a personality trait. It's a response to how someone is treated. When you make someone feel like a burden instead of a blessing, even the most faithful heart will stop choosing you. And by the time he realized it, it was too late. She had nothing left to give. Her silence wasn't anger, it was exhaustion. Her distance wasn't revenge, it was self-preservation. Now he sits with memories instead of moments. He replays the way she used to look at him when he was vulnerable, the way she lit up when he walked into the room, the quiet "I love yous," whispered not just in words but in actions. He misses the love he once called too much, now realizing that too much was exactly what he needed. And in the quiet of regret, he begins to understand she wasn't asking for too much. She was asking to not be taken for granted. He just didn't listen. She was a rare, genuine partner, something most people don't realize they had until it's no longer in reach. In a time where everyone is performing a version of themselves, where dating has become a game of who can care less, she chose to be real. She didn't hide behind pride, play hard to get, or use manipulation to feel powerful. She led with honesty, showed her feelings without shame, and gave love that was unfiltered and pure. That kind of authenticity is rare, and it's something many people aren't ready for, especially those who haven't yet confronted their own emotional immaturity. He wasn't ready, not for the intensity of someone who actually meant what she said, who actually stood by her word, and who actually followed through on love. The world teaches people to be guarded, to protect themselves, to keep their options open, to swipe left and move on quickly, but she wasn't made for that. She was the kind who still believed in something deeper, something lasting. Her vulnerability wasn't a weakness, it was a form of bravery. Every time she opened her heart, she risked being misunderstood, mistreated, or left, but she did it anyway because she believed in giving people the love she wished she'd received. She was someone who wanted to build, not just pass the time. Someone who invested, not just entertained. But when you're rare in a world full of temporary distractions, people don't always know how to receive you. He had something extraordinary and couldn't see it. She didn't need much, just consistency, effort, honesty. She wasn't asking him to be perfect. She wasn't keeping score or demanding grand gestures. All she wanted was to feel safe, seen, and emotionally connected. She wanted to be chosen, not just occasionally, but every day in actions, not just words, and that's where things unraveled. Because while she was giving him depth, he was stuck on the surface. While she was peeling back layers, he was putting up walls. While she was making space for both of them to grow, he was shrinking the relationship into something convenient, something less vulnerable, something easier to walk away from if it ever got too real. He may have thought he had time, that she wasn't going anywhere. That kind of assumption is easy to make when someone shows up for you over and over, but what he didn't realize was that she wasn't staying because she needed him, she was staying because she chose him. And choices can change when someone feels unseen. There comes a moment when a genuine partner realizes they are pouring into someone who has no intention of pouring back, and when that moment comes, the shift is irreversible. The love doesn't disappear all at once, but the belief in the future does. The light in her eyes dims, the effort slows, the words get shorter, the space between them grows, and eventually she stops reaching for a connection that she's carrying alone. People don't mourn fake connections. They don't stay up at night missing someone who was playing a part. But when he lost her, it wasn't just the loss of a girlfriend. It was the loss of his anchor, his cheerleader, his safe place. He lost someone who loved the unedited version of him, someone who didn't just tolerate his flaws, but understood them, someone who reminded him of who he was when he forgot. And that loss doesn't get easier over time. It gets louder. It echoes in quiet rooms, in failed rebounds, in messages he drafts and never sends. He'll try to find her again, in someone else's laugh, in another woman's eyes, in the comfort of attention. But he'll only find imitations. Because genuine love like hers doesn't come around often, and once it's gone, it leaves a mark so deep that no surface-level connection can touch it. That's the cost of not recognizing a real one when she's right in front of you. And that's the kind of regret that lingers, not because she was perfect, but because she was real in a world that isn't, and he let her slip away. She walked away for her own peace, not out of bitterness, revenge, or lack of love. That's the part people often misunderstand. When someone has poured their heart into a relationship, when they've tried over and over to be heard, seen, and valued, and they still find themselves standing alone emotionally, it's not a dramatic exit they make. It's a quiet, deeply painful decision to choose themselves over the chaos they've been trying to survive in. She didn't walk away because she stopped caring. She walked away because caring alone was exhausting. She was tired of explaining how she felt and having it brushed off, tired of asking for basic respect and feeling like she was asking for the world. Tired of hoping things would change while being met with the same cycles again and again. At some point, the hope turned into a burden. Peace becomes priceless when you've lived too long in emotional noise. And that's what he didn't understand. She wasn't leaving to teach him a lesson. She wasn't trying to hurt him. She was trying to breathe again. She was trying to silence the doubts that had built up inside her because of his actions or lack of them. She was trying to reclaim her sense of self, the part of her that had been slowly fading as she kept making excuses for why she wasn't being treated the way she deserved. When you love someone, you give them chances, even when they haven't earned them. You try to understand, to be patient, to believe in potential, but love without reciprocation becomes self-destruction, and eventually even the strongest hearts get tired of breaking themselves just to stay. She walked away quietly, not with screaming or ultimatums, but with calm. That calm wasn't indifference. It was clarity, the clarity that she couldn't keep fighting alone, the clarity that love isn't supposed to feel like begging, that if she had to constantly prove her worth, then she was never being loved for who she truly was. That clarity is what gave her the strength to leave, not because she didn't love him anymore, but because she finally loved herself enough to stop settling. She realized that peace isn't found in convincing someone to stay. Peace is found in knowing you gave your all and still chose to protect your own heart when it became too heavy to carry both hers and his. People often think the one who walks away is cold, but the truth is, it takes more strength to leave than to stay and keep shrinking yourself for someone who doesn't see your value. She tried to make it work, not just once or twice, but many times. She forgave things she shouldn't have. She swallowed words she should have said. She showed up even on days when she didn't feel seen, and all of that was love, real love, the kind that's not dependent on mood or convenience. But even real love has limits, because love without boundaries turns into self-betrayal, and she finally reached the point where betraying herself felt worse than losing him. Her peace was never something dramatic. It was simple. It looked like not waiting for a reply that never came. It looked like sleeping without anxiety. It looked like mornings without wondering if she'd be enough that day. Her peace came from letting go of something she once believed in, because the belief started to hurt more than the reality, and that's when he lost her. Not when she walked out the door, but when she realized her soul had already been walking away, one ignored conversation, one broken promise, one thoughtless action at a time. He'll remember her peace, not just her love. He'll remember how calm she became when she stopped fighting. He'll remember how different her silence felt when it wasn't a pause between arguments, but the final page of a story she no longer wanted to rewrite. And in that silence, he'll hear everything he refused to listen to before. All the times she said she was hurting. All the times she asked him to show up. All the times she cried while he called her too sensitive. She didn't walk away because she didn't care. She walked away because it was the only way to survive, because sometimes choosing peace means letting go of the person you hoped would choose you. Regret hit him when reality set in, not in the moment she left, but in the silence that followed. At first, it didn't feel like much. Maybe he thought she was just upset and needed space. Maybe he thought she'd text again like she always did, apologizing for things she didn't do, trying to mend something she didn't break. But days passed, and then weeks, and that silence stayed. There were no more messages checking in on him, no more good morning texts, no more warmth on the other side of the phone, just an emptiness where something beautiful once lived. And it was in that emptiness that the weight of what he had lost began to sink in. Regret doesn't usually scream, it whispers. It creeps in late at night when you scroll past a memory, when you hear a song that reminds you of how things used to be, or when you're surrounded by people but still feel alone. He started to remember things differently. He began to see the moments he once ignored as gold, the way she smiled when she saw him, the way she laughed at his dumb jokes, the way she defended him when others misunderstood him. The quiet gestures of love making him tea when he was tired, reminding him of his worth when he doubted himself, checking in on him when no one else noticed he was struggling. All those things that once felt normal now stood out like artifacts of a lost world. He realized she wasn't just someone who loved him, she understood him. She accepted parts of him he hadn't even learned to love yet, and now all that love was gone. It hit him hardest during the moments when he reached for her emotionally out of habit. When something good happened and he wanted to share it with her, when something went wrong and he needed comfort, when he saw something funny and instinctively wanted to send it her way, that's when regret dug in, not because he missed the routine, but because he missed the connection. He missed the way she listened without judgment, the way she celebrated his wins like they were her own, the way she grounded him when the world felt overwhelming. She was more than a girlfriend. She was his safe space, his best friend, his mirror. And losing her felt like losing a part of himself. What regret really exposed was how he underestimated her presence. He thought she'd always be there, that her kindness was a given, that her support was part of who she was, not a choice she made every day. But he was wrong. Her love wasn't guaranteed, it was earned, and he stopped earning it when he stopped showing up for her the way she showed up for him. He took for granted the fact that she always made time for him, always checked in, always gave her all. He thought he had time to change, time to do better later, but later never came. She got tired of waiting, and by the time he was ready to be the man she always believed he could be, she was already gone. Now, he finds himself comparing every woman he meets to her, not because he's trying to, but because she set the bar so high without ever making him feel like he had to climb to reach it. She made love feel effortless, even though she was constantly carrying the weight of his inconsistency. No one else gets him the way she did. No one else sees past the mask the way she did. And that kind of connection isn't something you can fake or replace or chase into the arms of someone new. It either exists or it doesn't. And with her it existed in the most raw, real, and irreplaceable way. He thought he had time to get it right, to fix things, to apologize, to grow. But the truth is, she had already given him all the time in the world. What she needed was effort, not delay. And now, he has to live with the truth that she was willing to give him the life he claimed he wanted, and he didn't recognize it when it was right in front of him. That's the kind of regret that lingers, not just because he lost her, but because he lost himself in the process. And no matter how much he tries to go back, some doors don't reopen, not because they're locked, but because the person on the other side isn't waiting anymore. She chose herself and grew without him, not because she stopped loving him, but because she realized she could no longer keep herself small just to stay close to someone who couldn't meet her where she was. Loving him had been an all-consuming effort, one where she kept dimming her own light to keep him comfortable. She supported his dreams, pushed him to be better, and stood by him when things were hard. But in the process, she was putting herself last. Her needs, her voice, her joy, they were all being sacrificed for a relationship that asked her to carry more than her share. When she finally walked away, it wasn't because she gave up. It was because she looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the version of herself who kept begging to be seen. At first, she mourned. She questioned everything. Did she do enough? Did she stay too long? Was it wrong to walk away? These are the kinds of thoughts that haunt someone who gave their heart honestly. She missed him, not just the presence, but the future she had imagined with him, the plans they had made, the life she thought they would build together. But over time the grief began to shift, the sadness started to make space for something else. Clarity. She began to see that loving him had made her forget how to love herself. She had bent in so many directions trying to make things work that she forgot she had the power to stand tall on her own. And the longer she stayed away, the more she started to feel whole again. She stopped waiting for closure. She stopped hoping for the apology she knew might never come. She stopped checking his social media to see if he noticed she was gone. Instead, she poured that energy back into herself. She started doing the things she once loved but had put on hold. She reconnected with her own passions. She focused on her growth, her peace, her strength. She began to realize she was never asking for too much. She was simply asking the wrong person. And with that awareness came power, not the loud kind, not the flashy, look at me kind, but the quiet power that comes from healing, from choosing yourself every day, from finally putting your emotional well-being above someone else's convenience. She became the version of herself she had always envisioned, confident, grounded, and fulfilled, not because of a man, but because she remembered who she was before the relationship dimmed her spirit, the self-worth that had been slowly eroded by being in a one-sided connection began to return. She set new boundaries, she raised her standards, and most importantly, she stopped settling for crumbs in a world where she knew she deserved the whole feast. Her love didn't become less, it just became more selective. And instead of giving it away to someone who didn't know what to do with it, she started giving it to herself. Meanwhile, he watched from afar, perhaps hoping she'd come back. Maybe he reached out, trying to rekindle something he had no idea how to maintain the first time. But she didn't respond in the same way anymore, not because she was bitter, but because she had grown, she had healed, the woman he once knew, the one who would have dropped everything to answer his late-night text, who would have ignored her own needs to soothe his moods. She no longer existed. In her place was a woman who had done the work, who had faced the pain, and who no longer found her worth in whether or not he saw her value. That's the bittersweet reality of love and loss. Sometimes it takes being broken to realize how strong you actually are. She rose from the ruins of their relationship not with vengeance, but with wisdom. She learned what it meant to love deeply, and also what it meant to lose herself in that love. But the most important thing she learned was that healing isn't about forgetting. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to be less. And now, she's not looking back. She's not waiting for someone to change. She's not chasing closure. She's too busy living the life she once thought she needed someone else to complete. The lesson is clear. Don't wait for regret to value someone. The truth is, most people don't fully appreciate what they have until it's gone, and by then, the damage has already been done. In the beginning of a relationship, it's easy to feel excitement, to be present, to say the right things and make the right moves. But sustaining love, protecting it, nurturing it, showing up for it consistently, that's where most people fall short. They think loyalty will last forever, that someone who loves them deeply will always wait, will always forgive, will always come back. They confuse love with obligation and mistake consistency for weakness, but the heart doesn't work that way. People eventually get tired of waiting to be appreciated.